to Head of State. I now invite the Assembly will hear now from His Excellency Faiez Mustafa Serraj, President of the Presidency Council of the Government of the National Accord of the State of Libya. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Faiez Mustafa Serraj, President of the Presidency Council of the Government of the National Accord of the State of Libya, and invite him to address the Assembly.
Come in and fix it from downstairs. That's the instructions, okay? We're downstairs, sit down, and I'll come and fix it down there.
Your Excellency, Professor Mohammed Tijani Bandi, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellency, Secretary General, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by seizing this opportunity to congratulate you, Mr. President, for assuming presidency of the United Nations General Assembly in its 74th session. I wish you all the success in leading the deliberations of the Assembly. I also thank Madam Maria Fernanda Espinosa for her exceptional efforts during her presidency of the previous Assembly session. I would also like to thank His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for his continuous efforts to achieve the purposes of the United Nations of maintaining international peace and security and supporting and enhancing development and promoting human rights. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I came to address you carrying on my shoulders the cause of my country, Libya, who is experiencing very serious circumstances and a serious crisis because of negative foreign interference that led to institutional and political division, and the crisis grew to reach the extent of military assault against its capital with external financial and military support, all of which reflected negatively on the peace and security of citizens. And it is no exaggeration to say that the stability and civilian nature of Libya is a critical matter, not only for Libya's stability, but the region and the world. The assault against the capital last April 4th, led by the criminal Khalifa Haftar, and what he called the noble struggle on the same day of the Secretary General's visit to Tripoli. This took place at a time when the country was preparing excitedly and hopefully to hold a national inclusive conference to find political solutions to our crisis. And days before the conference, Haftar demolished the aspirations of Libyans and the efforts of the international community in his coup attempt that was not his first, because he has previously announced in February 2014 on TV screens the suspension of the parliament, government, and the constitutional declaration. However, his coup has failed. And here he is today, repeating once again his desperate attempts to militarize the country and to block our path towards a modern civilian state, ridiculing the revolution of the Libyan people and their sacrifices that were offered to rid the country of dictatorship. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, what encouraged this war criminal to carry out this aggression is the support he received from certain states for years in flagrant violations of Security Council resolutions on the arms ban. This led him to be deluded and believe he can enter the capital in 2 days, but his delusions were destroyed, and the world has come to know his reality and to know that he is a bloody criminal seeking power. And because of our repeated victories of our brave forces, we found some retreat in the positions of some supporting states after his intentions were revealed and his lies, and he was known to be a failure. However, at the same time, it is unfortunate that other countries continue to interfere in our affairs and support the aggression, as has happened lately by the United Arab Emirates, who has allowed for its territories to be a media forum for Haftar to issue his hate speech and incitement. In addition, javelin missiles, French javelin missiles, were found after the liberation of the city of Girian, the center of the aggressors' operations. We also find it strange the positions of some states, particularly our neighbor Egypt, who lecture us on democracy and the civilian state and the economy and how to distribute wealth. We denounce these efforts that support the war criminal and that support coup plotters in violation of Security Council resolutions. We confirm that we will continue to respond to the aggressor and defeat him despite whatever support he receives. And we consider his supporters morally and legally responsible, and we will not allow anyone to cause bloodshed to Libyans. Our forces in the Volcano of Rage operation is achieving one victory after another in bravery. And we pay tribute to our brave heroes. And we pray that the souls of our martyrs will rest in peace despite the pain this has caused in our national memory. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the aggressor's plot is clear. Human rights violations are widespread, including extrajudicial killings and forced displacement, as has happened with the parliamentarian Siham Sarqiouya and other national figures. The aggression has led to fatal losses and casualties amounting to 3,000 persons until now, and led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands. The aggressor forces have committed serious violations considered by international law crimes of war, as has taken place in Tripoli and in Morzuk. There has been random bombing of civilian neighborhoods and attacks targeting airports and hospitals and ambulances and critical infrastructure, as well as practices such as child recruitment. And the person responsible is the war criminal and everyone who supports him with financing and weapons. We ask the ICC to hold responsible the criminals and accountable. In this context, we ask the United Nations to quickly send a mission of fact-finding to investigate the violations, and we also ask the prosecutor of the ICC to begin its investigations. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Haftar has tried to misguide public opinion by saying that he is fighting terrorism. It is a fake claim. The National Accord forces are the ones who have fought terrorism and have liberated Sirte from terrorism in the framework of the International Coalition to Combat Terrorism. And we continue to work together to root out terrorism wherever it is, and we will continue the battle until we uproot all of terrorism. Our soldiers who have fought the terrorist organization are the ones who are fighting back the aggression against the capital now. And in the face of these victories, Haftar is trying to promote a war between East and West Libya. This is false. There are no differences in Libya, neither religious or social. The truth is it's between a military state and a civilian state. Therefore, it is high time for the Eastern region to create an elite group of intellectuals and politicians to work together on the path of a consensual political solution in the context of a modern civilian state. We are promoters and advocates of peace and consensus, and we have repeated many times that no one wins in a military conflict and only Libya loses. We are keen to prevent the bloodshed of all Libyans, and on this occasion I call upon all youth who have been convinced of war by a war-obsessed man to return securely, safely to their homes and to take the side of the nation. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, we want to live in peace and to be connected to states of the world in cooperation and mutual respect, and we refuse interference in domestic affairs. And in this context, we welcome the Security Council resolution of 13th September on extending the mission in Libya, which has confirmed the continued political track to complete the constitutional process and organize elections. And we are strongly committed to dialogue and the political process within new mechanisms that take into consideration the results of the aggression after the 4th of April. And we repeat that we will not sit once again with the war criminal Haftar. He is not a partner for peace. I have proposed last June an initiative for a national conference attended by representatives of all Libyans who support a democratic civilian state leading to legislative and presidential elections. And on this basis, there's no room in dialogue for someone who wants to militarize the state. In this context, we have held a series of meetings for national consultations that included all segments of Libyan society, from elite intellectuals and the cultural figures and women leaders and youth leaders and military leaders as well. The meetings will continue with all regions and will include civil society in order to build a comprehensive national vision to end the crisis. In this context, we welcome the position of the parliament session held in Tripoli that rejected the aggression and that has taken the side of the people in favor of a modern civilian state. The statement from the Security Council was filled with positive aspects, and we particularly refer to consolidating the arrangements taken by the Government of National Accord on governance and security, including the support for economic reform that was adopted last September. In this context, we must mention that we have taken measures to implement decentralization by taking and transferring services to elected municipal councils. And we emphasize that the national budget is distributed to all areas of Libya without any marginalization, and it is used to expend all salaries of public service staff, despite what is promoted by some. And in this regard, we would like to refer to the financial violations undertaken by some institutions and we warn against attempts to sell Libyan oil outside of legal means. The oil is property of all Libyans, and its management is the responsibility of the national oil company alone. In this context, we renew our call to form a technical committee under the supervision of the United Nations to review the operations of the central bank in Tripoli. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, a prosperous economy is closely related to security. They are two sides of one coin. Therefore, we were eager to accompany economic reform with security reform through implementation of security arrangements based on security forces and regular police force. And before the aggression, we have achieved positive strides in this regard, which has led to the return of several diplomatic missions to Tripoli. And we were able to contain most armed groups and implemented programs to collect weapons and integrated former militants in national institutions. The use of force must be a right of the state alone. Mr. President, in the midst of this crisis, we face another critical challenge, which is irregular and illegal migration. Migrants come through Libya seeking Europe. And based on this flow of migrants, our economy and society as a whole has been affected. The aggression has exacerbated this situation. Migrants became easy prey for terrorist organizations. And as well known, the migrant center has been targeted by bombing, leading to hundreds of casualties against the backdrop of international silence. This is a matter of great concern for us and the Europeans, but we are victims of this migration, and we are not a cause of this migration. In this context, we continue to cooperate with the target states of migrants, and we welcome all forms of cooperation with organizations to address this phenomenon. Therefore, it is necessary for all countries to cooperate together, whether countries of origin or transit. And we must focus on not only the security dimension, but to try to support the development in origin states. My country, as a transit of migrants, critically needs political support in proportion to the challenge, so that we can build the necessary institutions to control borders, to limit this phenomenon and minimize its impact. In this regard, we call for support proportional to the issue. What we receive cannot be compared to what is offered to other states that face migration issues as well. In this regard, we highly appreciate the Coastal Guard's efforts, who have contributed and continue to contribute to rescuing the lives of thousands of migrants at sea, despite limited capacities. The solution, in our opinion, remains to support stability in the country. A stable Libya will be able to secure its borders and will be able to provide job opportunities to hundreds of thousands as per Libyan labor law. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights and the rule of law are critical matters that we attach great importance to. The change that has taken place since 2011 has created the grounds for comprehensive reforms in this regard. several measures were taken that promote human rights. The Government of National Accord is also coordinating with the judiciary the means to create the environment necessary for a critical role by the judiciary based on combating impunity and empowering law enforcement to carry out their job as necessary. In this regard, we look forward to cooperating with specialized UN agencies and receiving their technical support in this field. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, despite the difficult circumstances, we follow everything that takes place around us and we contribute as much as we can to support every positive measure that will serve the interests of people and the cause of peace. In this framework, we express our concern with regards to the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. My country supports the issue of Security Council reform and expanding both permanent and non-permanent seats in the Security Council and promoting the right of non-permanent states in council membership and participating in the council's activities. My country also confirms the need to admit Africa's right to be represented permanently in the Council. Ladies and gentlemen, peace in the Middle East is extremely important. We suffer many challenges. However, we have not spared an effort to support the cause of the Palestinian people and the right to establish their independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital, as per the Arab Peace Initiative. My country also supports all efforts that aim to find a political solution, a peaceful solution in Syria and Yemen in order to avoid destruction and division, and that in order to fulfill the aspirations of both peoples to live in dignity, democracy, and under the rule of law. In conclusion, I seize the opportunity to call upon all states from this podium, call upon all states who are concerned by the stability in Libya to cooperate with the Government of National Accord and to cooperate with UN initiatives and to respect international law and to assist our people to move forward on the path of peace and security. It is time for our country to achieve stability and to enjoy security and to begin construction. And it is enough, the blood that has been shed and the time that has been wasted. May God help us all. Peace be upon you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Presidency Council of the Government of the National Accord of the State of Libya for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we greet the head of state.